The movie begins in an ethereal, cloudy realm, where a man spots the gates to the afterlife ahead of him. However, as he approaches, the gates close, blocking his entry. Standing before him is a towering godlike figure who plays with the emotions of people. The man demands entry through the gates, but the god plays a trick, casting a magical spell on him instead. On Earth, we meet a young boy named Dinsen. Living with his mother, he befriends a mischievous girl, Lai Nawang, who resides with her wealthy father, leaving her feeling neglected. The two become best friends, spending a few years together until Mr. Wang relocates Lai Nawang, leaving Dinsen feeling lonely again. They promise to remain friends. Fast forward 10 years, Dinsen now works as a food delivery person, prioritizing work over his studies. He asks his friend, Wai, to bring his assignment to his house. During his last delivery, he encounters a homeless man who asks for his order. In an odd turn of events, the man disappears after receiving a teapot from Dinsen. Returning home, everyone praises Dinsen, believing he is a genius destined for a successful career. However, things take a turn when Wai reveals that Dinsen has been skipping classes, angering Mrs. Song. That night, Dinsen gets a cheap suit and visits a billboard featuring Lena, a model he deeply misses. He wants to reconnect with her, but after his suit tears apart, he realizes he might be deluding himself into thinking she would still see him as a friend. Expressing his wish to keep their promise, the teapot he brought starts shaking, and it unleashes the wish dragon, Lonzo. He proclaims to Dinsen that he is now his new master, although he seems unimpressed to find that Dinsen is just a regular teenage boy. Outside the alley, 3 villains appear, including a bald man named Pockets, a short henchman, and a tall one. They have been sent by their employer to retrieve the teapot, and Pockets manages to sneak past the guards in the area using his kung fu skills. When they spot Dinsen holding the teapot, they go after him. Feeling helpless, Dinsen wishes he knew how to fight, and Lonzo grants him the ability to utilize kung fu skills to defend himself and escape from the villains. The next day, Lonzo follows Dinsen and urges him to use his last 2 wishes. Lonzo reveals that he has been imprisoned in the teapot for the last 1,000 years, serving 10 masters, and Dinsen is the last one. He accompanies Dinsen around the city as the boy acquaints himself with the modern world and all the changes he has missed during his time inside the teapot. Along the way, Lonzo becomes addicted to shrimp chips. As they find themselves stuck in traffic in a cab, Lonzo becomes frustrated and uses his magic to fly both of them out of the jam. Despite Lonzo's encouragement to wish themselves out of there, Dinsen decides to use his second wish to become a wealthy princeling, hoping that Lena will notice him and reconnect with her. With Lonzo posing as his servant, they attend Lena's birthday party. As Dinsen gets closer to Lena, she doesn't immediately recognize him and treats him politely, like any other guest. When it's time for Lena and her father to share a dance, Mr. Wang is absent. To save Lena from embarrassment, Dinsen performs an impromptu magic show with Lonzo's help. However, Lena retreats to her room in tears. Determined to reintroduce himself, Dinsen plans to talk to her, but Mr. Wang's assistant, Buckley, interrupts, setting up a video call with Mr. Wang. When Dinsen sees Lena, he tries to play it cool, introducing himself as Dan and fabricating a story about his family's chain of dumpling restaurants. Assuming Dinsen is a wealthy suitor, she arranges for them to have lunch later after the party. Meanwhile, Lonzo once again attempts to persuade Dinsen to use his last wish, revealing that he merely wants to go to heaven, having once been a human emperor beloved by all his subjects. The next morning, Pockets and his goons are seen outside Dinsen's apartment, unaware that he arrived with Lonzo. They follow him as he heads out for lunch with Lena. At the restaurant, Lonzo tries to encourage Dinsen to act snooty and pretentious to impress the staff, but it only comes off as unappealing to Lai Nawang. Before she decides to leave, the villains crash the restaurant. Dinsen utilizes his kung fu skills to fight them off and rescue Lena, leading them to escape into a festival outside. In a clever disguise, Lonzo turns himself into a paper dragon to hide among the festival's festivities. Pockets and his goons counter with their own dragon, engaging in a fierce battle. Despite the chaos, Dinsen manages to get himself and Lena to safety. In a moment of solitude, he reveals his true identity to her, confessing that he lied because he thought she wouldn't notice him as a commoner. Lena recognizes the neighborhood they are in as the one she used to live in, leading them to visit Dinsen's apartment. Mrs. Song remembers Lena and treats her to a meal, while nosy neighbors curiously peep in. Lena spends the rest of the afternoon with everyone, making dumplings and having fun. However, later that night, she shares her feelings with Dinsen, explaining that she must leave and doesn't feel they can continue seeing each other because of the expectations and standards imposed on her due to her father's position. Feeling hurt but compassionate, Dinsen asks Lonzo to relinquish his third wish, and instead make him rich. Lonzo reveals his tragic backstory through cloudy imagery as an emperor who craved wealth and respect to be the greatest ruler. Despite his power, nobody around him was happy, leaving him perpetually alone. His daughter's marriages to other royal families were unhappy, and his son tragically died in war. When Lonzo died, nobody mourned him, and he was denied entry to heaven. As punishment for his greed, he was transformed into a wish dragon, feeling he had failed all his previous masters in understanding the meaning of life, until he met Dinson. Mr. Wang arrives with Pockets and the goons after learning that Lena was with Dinson. He asks for the teapot to help save his financially struggling company. However, Pockets betrays Mr. Wang and goes after the teapot for himself. In the ensuing chaos, Pockets knocks Dinson down and throws Mr. Wang off a great height before declaring himself Lonzo's new master. Pockets uses his first wish to turn everything he touches into gold. Lena arrives and finds her father dying, prompting her to join the battle against the villains. During the struggle, the tall goon wishes for enough puppies to start a pet store, while the short goon wishes for longer legs. In a mishap, Pockets accidentally turns the van into gold, leading to a fierce confrontation between him and Dinson for the teapot. However, Lonzo intervenes and takes the hit, starting to turn to gold himself, resulting in a dramatic chain of events leading to everyone falling. In a twist of fate, Pockets accidentally touches himself, turning into gold and shattering upon hitting the bridge. Dinson falls into the water and is unable to save Lonzo, who is now fully encased in gold. Lonzo finds himself back in the spirit world, transformed into a human once again. The god from earlier is prepared to allow Lonzo through the gates to heaven, but Lonzo wants to return to Dinson to use his third wish. The god agrees, but with one condition. Lonzo returns to Dinson and uses his third wish to heal Mr. Wang. Upon waking up, Dinson finds Lena by his side, grateful for his actions. Meanwhile, the two goons have split up, having fulfilled their wishes. Dinson returns home with Lena and her father, where Mrs. Song offers them dinner. Mr. Wang compliments Mrs. Song, stating that she made the best soup he has ever had. Later on, Mr. Wang and Mrs. Song decide to open a soup dumpling restaurant, with Dinson and Lena working there and maintaining their friendship. Sometime later, Dinson stumbles upon the teapot again and speaks to Lonzo outside. Lonzo informs him that he must now serve another 10 masters. Dinson hugs his friend goodbye and places the teapot on the back of a cart, which is being ridden by the transformed human god. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more interesting movies.